game prior to free agency opens up July 1st. And, of course, Chris Paul's big decision tomorrow. Paul George has until 3 p.m. today to figure out whether he's going to opt in. The Warriors have been linked to him. But before the break, Dan, we talked about, this the teams that have been linked to Klay Thompson. Because I don't know about you. I think we're both on the same page that we don't see him back next season for the Warriors. But the reason that I don't think that he's going to be back is because I think it's just, to me, the Warriors don't necessarily see him as necessary, as a priority. But I do think that there's a team, and Chris Haynes, I think, posted this picture on social media, it was either last night or earlier today, that Klay Thompson was spotted in Denver. So there are some teams that have been out there connected to Klay. Denver's one of them. Dallas is another, according to Mark Stein. Philadelphia and Orlando both have cap space, though I think Orlando's been more connected to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who opted out of his player option in Denver. I would like to see Klay Thompson in Mile High.
Well, I would
love to see Klay Thompson play for the Denver Nuggets.
Well, can you imagine?
Yes.
I mean,
I can.
He would be, that's a good fit for him. How many times has Michael Porter Jr. talked about, this is the perfect fit for me because I just sit here on the wings or on the angles, and I just wait for Jokic to kick it to me. I just wait for Jamal Murray to draw and kick. And I just do what it is that I do. And I sit and I shoot. That's the team where you don't have to beat guys off the dribble. You don't have to be creative. You can be Klay. And you can just go hang out in the corner, and Jokic will find you. And all you need to do is shoot it. Now, for the Warriors, you still need a little two-way player. You still need, you need a little bit more. And I still think he's still for sort of feast or famine. But if he's feeling it one night, or if he's locked in, Denver's the perfect place because it's just catch and shoot. It's exactly what Porter did to his career. By the way, they were also reportedly in on the Paul George sweepstakes as well. And
yes,
they wanted
were.
to move Michael Porter. Why don't you detail that for people?
Yeah, so Michael Porter Jr., Zeke Naji, and there might have been another small player that was involved. But the hang-up was the draft capital. So the Nuggets made a call about Paul George, and it seems like if they wanted to give up X amount of first-round picks, they could have made it happen. But they decided that Paul George wasn't the way to go, and I think Paul George would have been a great fit in Denver too. The thing with Klay, though, like, for example, the East Coast teams that I think he's been connected to, Orlando, I know everyone talks about how great he'd be there because they were one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league. I just don't know how great Klay Thompson would be around a bunch of young guys because I don't really think he's somebody who right now wants to be the mentor or the leader. I think he still wants to go somewhere and compete, whether it's as a starter or as a bench player. And Philadelphia is a market that I kind of just think would eat him alive.
I agree.
And so I don't think Philly is a good fit for him.
He'd be the new Tobias Harris.
Yeah, exactly. Dallas would be interesting. Dallas is a team that I could see, but I also don't think that he would start for that team because they're pretty much just bringing back their 5 from their finals run. If there's a team that he could go and start for...
Who's he going to replace for Denver? He's coming off the bench in Denver.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
Where'd he go?
So he opted out of his player option to test free agency. I think he's going to go to Orlando.
Oh, all right. Well, if KCP's out the door, yeah. But if KCP's coming back, Klay's coming back. Oh, I get you. So,
well, it's one or the other.
Gotcha,
I think Klay Thompson's a contingency plan if they can't figure out a way to keep KCP. Yeah, dude, KCP would be perfect on any team.
Oh no,
I think he's a very good two-way player. So, but assuming he is gone,
KCP, by the way, locked up Steph Curry last year.
Yes. Well,
Steph did not play well against Denver, and namely, it was because of KCP. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I just got a small piece of news. This is from Adrian Wojnarowski, nothing Warriors related, but Royce O'Neal intends to sign a 4-year, $44 million contract with the Phoenix Suns. They acquired him via trade with the Nets last season.
Oh, wow. All right.
So $11 million a year for Royce O'Neal, who's, I guess by the end of the season, he was in the rotation, be it process of elimination.
You want to get into some of the Warrior drafts? Speaking of bigs.
Yeah, who you hot on?
I love this QT Post. I'm telling you, Quentin Post will be in the NBA. He's one of those guys.
All these young guys, man.
He'll be in the NBA for the next 10 to 12 years.
Oh boy.
He'll be a 15-year guy. If you're a stretch five in the NBA, he'll be the new Brook Lopez. He will find there are teams.
He's also another option for the Warriors.
That is a guy that is just going to stick and may play with multiple teams before it's all said and done with. But stretch fives in the NBA, and make no mistake about it, he can shoot. Now, listen, I can't tell you a lot about this Lindy Waters III. I was like a lot of people, whether you're willing to admit this or not, I had to look him up on YouTube. I was like, who the hell is this guy? Because, OKC has so many wings. He was like number 8 on their depth chart. So I had to look. I didn't know anything about this dude. But I can tell you that I did watch last year, only because I'm a betting degenerate. And on a Wednesday night, I believe, it was Miami and it was Boston College. And I watched that game from horn to horn.
Okay.
And I remember going, who is this kid, Quentin Post? Because he can shoot. He is so perfectly suited for the NBA game. He is a stretch five, catch and shoot, get out. You're going to have to extend on this guy. Now, he's a bit of a stiff. He does not have the athleticism. You're not going to mistake him for Giannis or Joel Embiid anytime soon. Like, he doesn't. And defensively, I know he did I think he was all defense last year, but he's not very mobile or lateral from what I saw in 2 games where I had to watch intently. Not that I was scouting this guy, but I was scouting my money. And you know what it's like when you've got some skin in the game, you watch with, this added sort of fervor. And I'm like, this guy saved my butt, and he could shoot. That's for real. A lot of the other stuff will improve, I'm assuming, over time. But a stretch five, and he's a legitimate 7 feet, right? That's the one thing. Trace Jackson-Davis is a good fit for the Golden State Warriors because he's so smart, and the pick and roll, which is something that they haven't had. But it's a little bit different because typically the Warriors are looking for someone to play that stretch five, right? To be the Bjelica, to be, that's what Saric was supposed to be last year. So it's a coveted position, so I can understand what it is that the Warriors are doing. And believe you me, I think they got their guy in QT Post.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the name because that's the first place my mind went to was, did they just draft Dario Saric? From everything I'm reading about him, he could shoot the hell out of the basketball. He shot 43% last year from three-point range, averaged 18 and 8, granted for a 500 ACC team, but still, that's solid. He's 24 years old, so you would imagine he's going to be able to step in the league and be a player. He doesn't need a ton of development and grooming, but I think the idea of size, Dan, sometimes gets a bit conflated or inflated because you want a 7-footer, but you also need someone that's mobile and that's switchable and that's versatile. And there are very few of those 7-footers in the league. Nevertheless, I don't know. I think Zach Edey's going to get abused. I think the fact that he's in Memphis for a team that is young and likes to run is probably the worst place for him. John Morant could beat him up the court and back 7 times before he gets to the other end. So I want Quentin Post to be successful. I hope he is. To me, I guess the bigger takeaway I got from the draft was they're trying to emphasize adding more shooting. And it could be because they might be replacing Klay. I also just think it's kind of I don't know, they're looking at the playoffs for what do teams have that are successful? They have switchable wings that can shoot the 3. I think the Warriors want to play more 5-out basketball next year. Maybe Quentin Post factors into that. But I'm just afraid that he's going to get eaten up on defense. Oh, if he even plays.
Yeah, I think that there's no doubt. And you have to pick your spots when you play him, just like that as Zach Edey, right? If a team's going 5 out, right, and no one's on the floor that's taller than 6'6", Zach Edey's not playing. He's not going to be in that. You pick your spots when it's to your advantage. I think that for the Golden State Warriors is that they had to get taller, right? And so I don't know what they do with Kevon Looney, but the idea of having centers, 3 of them, to me is a good thing for the Warriors because I'm just tired of a team where your tallest starting player on the lineup is Draymond Green at 6'6". That has to end. And yeah, he is Dario Saric, but he's Dario Saric at age 25, not the Dario Saric we saw last year. And I would take Dario Saric earlier in his career because you're just looking, he is not going to be a centerpiece. You're not going to run plays for him. But anybody can stretch and shoot and be 7 feet tall. Just be 7 feet tall. You're going to alter shots, and almost by accident, you're going to get rebounds. Right? As long as the hoop is 10 feet from the ground and the object is put a ball in that basket, 7-footers are going to have an impact on this game. So the idea of 5 out, yeah, I know the Warriors changed the way the game's played, but I also think that we're witnessing a transition in the sport where the big is returned. And I think that you need bodies like that of a Quentin Post, a Trace Jackson Davis to match up with the likes of all the other bigs now that, once again, have re-entered in the NBA.
888-957-9570 is the number. This is Saturdays on 95.7 The Game with Dan Devone, Evan Giddings, Ken Luttrell with you here. Let's get out to the East Bay talking about, Paul George. What's up, Gil? How are you? What's going on?
I'm pretty good. I don't understand this fascination that these radio hosts have with Paul George. He's way past his prime. The past 5 years, he's missed 36% of the games that the Clippers have played. Indiana won nothing when Paul George was there. Let's see, OKC won nothing when Paul George was there. And the Clippers aren't going to win anything with Paul George there. So why is it that the Golden State Warriors have to pursue? Why do they even have to say that? We're going to pursue Paul George. The Golden State Warriors have to get younger and they have to get taller. They do not need a guy that's past his prime. Let's see. I got to tell you something. I love Steph Curry. I love his family. I think he's the face of the Warriors. I hope they build him a big statue. But you know something? Steph Curry is past his prime, too. He's 36 years old. Let's see. If you want to sign some guy, go after a free agent that or two that really and truly can add on to the Golden State Warriors. Go after a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein. Let's see, the Knicks can't give him more than $18 million if they can give him that much. Let's see, go after this other old guy by the name of Klay Thompson. We know what we're going to get with these guys. We don't know what we're going to get with Paul George. And that's all I have to say.
Hey, Gil, when you say those radio announcers, you're excluding one Dan Devone, the kahuna, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Thanks, God. Gil. Appreciate it.
You're beautiful.
That's a walk-off. Yeah, I mean, look, I
rack that.
All right, number one. Yeah, please. Thank you, Ken. I've heard this 36% thrown out a lot about Paul George, right? You know who else has missed north of 30% of their games the last 4 years that they've actually, well, technically be more than that, but we'll say the last 4 years they've been healthy. Yeah, Jamal Murray. Yeah, he's 26.
Yeah.
Like, he's injury prone. You know who else missed a lot of games last season? Luka Doncic has missed games the last couple seasons. Players miss games now more than ever. You know who missed a lot of games last season? I don't know, Draymond Green. Like, I guess that's a bad example because that was more of a suspension thing. But my point is that there are...
Lauri Markkanen was injured the year before.
Lauri Markkanen played 55 games last year. Yeah. He's in the middle of his prime. Like, to expect players to just all of a sudden play 70, I think is a little foolish. I think one of the reasons the Warriors could not sustain injuries or absences last year is because they didn't have the requisite depth or they didn't have players.
Well, here's what I would say when it comes to Paul George. Okay, I'll give you let's just say he plays another 74 games. What I've seen of the guy, do you still think he's a number one at age 30, soon to be 35? Because I don't.
No, but he wouldn't have to be a number one.
Well, to the caller's point, Steph is still very good, but I think that the ideal free agent that you're going to max out should be a 1A. Like, it should be Steph and whomever. To me, he's clearly not a number one on the basketball team, which is why I think Philadelphia would be an ideal place for him because you would go Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and then Paul George.
Speaking of another injury-prone player, there's Joel Embiid.
Yeah, well, the injuries aside, I don't think he's that guy. And that's the problem with a lot of this, is that when we say Paul George, when we say Jimmy Butler, we immediately think of what it is they've done in the past. And ideally for the Golden State Warriors is that you want to be like that of Oklahoma, like that of Minnesota, like that of these younger teams and be thinking about what lies ahead as opposed to what it is you did in 2019 through 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, look, Paul George is not the answer. I mean, I think we just diverted because I don't know. To me, Dan, I don't think they can afford to just stand pat. But I do think that's the way it's going. Like,
when you say you can't afford, you mean can't afford in terms of winning right now?
Yeah, like I think if they just sit pat, they're going to be worse than a 46-win team next year. Like I think what right now the tea leaves that I'm reading is that there's no move out there that the Warriors are willing to go all in on. And that might be the right move. You don't want to go in on Paul George and mortgage your future, attach Kuminga, whatever. I also don't think that there's a move out there that another team is willing to kind of just meet the Warriors halfway for. So yeah. I think right now the most likely outcome is that the Warriors guarantee Chris Paul's $30 million tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Paul George goes back to the Clippers or some other team, not named Golden State, and Klay Thompson signs with a different team in free agency. Is that team better next season?
No, but you've just discarded nearly $75 million off your payroll.
No. Chris Paul, they're going to guarantee that money. Like I can almost.
So you're saying Chris Paul's coming back
either as a trade chip or to be on the team. Like I think they're picking up his $30 million tomorrow.
And what's your question?
Is that team better?
No, you're not. But again, these are the moves that you have to make in order to go where it is that you're going to go for a year, which is going to be. Not a very good place in terms of wins and losses.
Well, unless you think those young players can take significant leaps.
They're going to take significant leaps. I still don't think you're going to win. You may get in to the playoffs. You may get in, as a play-in.
Oh, I think next year the goal is just to get back to the postseason. I'm not setting my sights on championship.
Yeah, well, I think that you have. Again, it's so difficult because it's all conjecture because these guys have only played 1 year. Now you're going to be counting on them to play the majority of the season to find out exactly what they're like night in and night out. But you're looking to carve a path where you have a future. This is what is it called? Carfunkel? I mean, this is ugly right now.
Simon and Garfunkel?
This is ugly when it comes to the Warriors. Right now, this is a team that, and this happens. At some point, you just got to say, okay, reset. And no one wants to hear it. We want to talk about Paul George. Let's dust off Jimmy Butler. How can we get back talking about the Warriors and the championships? That ship has left the port. It's time to start anew and to find out who is the new face of the franchise. What's the new direction? Who's the new core? Now, you're not going to find a Draymond, Stephen Klay. That's never going to happen again, at least in my lifetime. But you can still be a good team. You can still be relevant, but you now need to identify new pieces. And that's going to happen inevitably. And to me, you're better off happy if it takes place sooner rather than later. You do not want to be hamstrung with a max deal of a 38-year-old Paul George 5 years from now making $60 million, and you've mortgaged all your young players and you're handicapped because you're hard capped and you can't go out and get anybody. That, to me, is a recipe for disaster.
Well, they can't get anybody anyways because of how much money they have tied up. I mean, even if they move off of Chris Paul, they can't go out and acquire a free agent. So the other part of this too, I think it sounds good to say they need to start looking towards, the next face of the franchise or identifying the future generation of it. I don't see it. I don't see it on this roster right now. I hope Kuminga can become a superstar, but I don't see it right now. I find it hard to believe that...
When did you jump off of Kuminga's wagon?
Well, I was driving it most of the season, it felt like. I just don't think that right now he's going to be Kawhi Leonard.
Right now?
I mean, right now he seems like he could be... My hope for Kuminga next year is that he could become a 20-point-per-game scorer consistently.
I agree with you, but I hope part of that 20 points is
ideally he becomes a better defender, better passer, better rebounder. But I think...
Well, the one thing you're leaving out is he's got to be a better shooter.
Yeah,
from three-point territory.
I think that's part of scoring more.
Yeah, well, he scores, but he does a lot of it, just running over dudes or getting past guys or finishing on breaks, and he'll still give you 20 points a game. He can go up to 25, 30 points a game if he can shoot that three. Can you imagine having to go out and extend on Kuminga? He'll blow by you in a heartbeat. He's that guy, but he's got to be able to prove that he can shoot that thing. To me, if Kuminga becomes, and they say he's working on shooting, if he becomes a three-point threat, which he's far, far from being right now, that alters the landscape when you think about assessing that guy.
Yeah, but I don't want to assess the next face of the franchise when I still have the face of the franchise. Like, I don't think Curry is a top 5 player anymore.
Yeah.
But he's still really good. And I guess I just don't believe that the Warriors are going to let him wilt, shout out Chamberlain, for the next couple of years of his deal, and then just hope that he re-ups and comes back and just tries to age gracefully. Like, that doesn't sound like much of a plan.
It's not a plan by design, but it is an alternative for the Warriors. And again, they're never going to say this publicly, but giving him an opportunity for the last 2 years to play in front of, the fans here for the Warriors and just to go out with everybody saying thank you is probably what you're looking at. I don't know when you look at this current roster and you think about what it is that they potentially could do through free agency, through trades. Somebody said this so succinctly early on in the chat line, they're effed. And in a lot of ways, they are. If you're thinking about trying to be that team again and return to 2 or 3 years ago, there's just no path. So what do you do instead of trying to put that proverbial square peg into a round hole and pound your head against the wall? Like, what are we going to do? What you do is you hit reset. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay because you'll be back in 2 years.
I don't think you will. Like, when you say reset or rebuild.
No, you won't if you sign Paul George, or you won't if you get Jimmy. If you tie yourself to a long max deal, you won't. But you give yourself an opportunity, more of an opportunity to do it in a year or two as opposed to signing a Paul George, and now you're screwed for the next 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think an investment like that would screw you for 20 years.
Well, I was embellishing.
Well, yeah, no, I know. But, like, I think, like, I don't think Paul George is realistic. What I guess I'm perplexed about is that the Warriors have taken this stance like they are going big fish hunting. Like, they want to acquire a big-name player, and then all of their actions point in the opposite direction.
Yeah.